And it's still true. 2 months later, and it's still true. I really like, so over the course of this, that our enthusiasm has not diminished at all. What was the most rewarding part of starting You're Invited? So, Rachel, what do you think was the most rewarding part?
Oh, the Friday morning hug. Just being able to see everyone that I have missed so much, and to feel part of an active community where I can really, like emotionally, I'm like, oh, I don't think I could have gotten through the last few months without You're Invited, because it has just been such a glow in my week. As
this shelter in place has gone on, I have absolutely was becoming more and more withdrawn from and feeling so much more cut out from the game community. And what this has done is that, remembering all the people out there who I miss and care about also miss each other, and being able to have this every Friday it's the same. It's having that to look forward to so that I can kind of visit with everybody. Gives me a focus for the week and something to look forward to going into the weekend. And even having, I know like everybody's like, time is meaningless anymore, nothing matters, and
it's a good cap to the week.
It actually gives structure to my week, which was starting to get really out there.
Good morning!
Good morning, everybody!
Hello, friends and gamers on the interwebs. I'm Rachael Blaske.
And I'm Julie Ahern.
And this is episode, what is it? 13. It's lucky.
13. Oh, yeah.
And you're invited. And in this episode, Julie, VP and COO of Greenbrier Games, and myself, VP of Channel Marketing for White Wizard Games, will chat over a good cup of coffee with, this time, it's to go. And talk about the tabletop industry news and a topic that we feel is important in running a board game publishing company, all the while discussing your comments and questions in the live chat, because you're invited and you're here.
Yeah. And this episode, we are sponsored by Kids Table Board Gaming, who just funded Creature Comforts on Kickstarter yesterday at over in Canadian $528,000, as well as being spotlighted on Canadian national television for their most recently fulfilled title, Fossils. So congratulations to them. And then also sponsored by XYZ Game Labs, Arch Ravels. Get a little crafty at this competitive order fulfillment and engine building game set in the colorful world of Fiber Arts. Sorry. That's a very different game.
Live stream.
Arch Ravels Standard and Deluxe editions are still available at the Kickstarter backer price until December 31st.
Ooh.
That's huge.
Grab that, man.
Shipping will be in January. More on that in a minute. All this and more at shop.xyzgamelabs.com.
Awesome. And this season, we are sharing the love with others. If you share the love with us, so for every share of our posts, we are giving back to from your generosity with a donation to our community. And for me, it's the Great Plains Gaming Project. And for Julie, it is Girls Inc. Indie. And we're going to give you that chance to share right now. Yay! Did you do it?
Did it!
Did it! Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, we got some tabletop news for you.
We do. So the fun in being an entrepreneur just keeps on coming this holiday season. So if you aren't aware, maybe you work with fulfillment partners, this season, which I will say this is a bit of an editorial aside, but it makes sense. We're doing a lot more ordering online, not going to stores, trying to be responsible, which is great. The problem is that shipping is bearing the brunt of that, and also probably has a lot of safety regulations in place. And because of that, they have they've capped the limit of products they will ship per day for a lot of small businesses. So we, for FedEx and UPS, there was a lot of unexpected holiday shipping limits that they didn't announce until Black Friday, when Black Friday sales were already going on. So the caps are somewhere between 100 and 200 per day. And that, for somebody who's doing a Black Friday sale and selling thousands in a day, can be super detrimental, because the whole point was to get it for most people, before Christmas. So I will say that the article that we've been reading, that people who work with FedEx and UPS are at least have been getting constant communication when things have been changing once they change, but there was no forewarning before it happened. And I will also say that if you're just a individual shipping things, that so far there hasn't been any decrease in their abilities. In fact, I shipped something last week to Rachel, left on a Thursday, arrived to her halfway across the country on Saturday.
Yeah, it was crazy fast.
So I think they're also trying to be mindful of not businesses, but individuals getting their things for Christmas, which, you have to prioritize, I guess. I'm not sure if that's great for us as small businesses, but you got to prioritize. And of course, this is FedEx and UPS, not the post office, but of course the post office is, how do we say, slammed.
Oh, so slammed.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing that I want to remind you all is to click the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner, and that way you can choose to be notified every time we go live. And we also have the link to our YouTube account in the description box below, so you can subscribe and find the archive shows after streaming. Now, today, gosh, I'm so crazy excited. And she's been sitting there patiently. She's like, why am I on here? You guys haven't acknowledged me yet. But Debbie Moynihan is here. So we've got marketing tips with Debbie this week.
Yeah.
So since we kind of just flew through this beginning, because we have so much good stuff to talk about. I'm like a little overwhelmed. Like, how are we going to get through?
I was taking notes last night while we were prepping.
I know. So pumped. But good morning, Debbie.
Hello.
Hi. I'm going to go ahead and switch us over so that our faces are all in your faces. And they'll probably put us in the wrong order, but there we go. All right.
Also, what was our question this week?
Well, this week we asked the question, in a season of sales, how do you make yours stand out? And we've been getting a lot more interaction online and everything. But this one, I think that it's a good question, and not a whole lot of people had a lot to say. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about this. And I don't know if we're going to specifically answer this exact question, but we've got a lot to talk about with it.
So, getting started. Miss
All
Debbie,
right.
For all those people out there in the world who don't know who you are, which I think is probably nobody, but let's for funsies, tell us who you are.
My name is Debbie. I am the CEO of White Wizard Games. We are most famous for Star Realms, but we make quite a few other games as well. And my history is in marketing. So I historically was an engineer. Then I asked a million questions about business and went back to business school. So I have a traditional education in business. But I've always been a constant learner of always reading books and watching now, obviously, with all the videos and everything, this awesome online education. And I joined White Wizard Games actually initially as like the free marketing consultant, because my boyfriend at the time founded the company, Rob Doherty. He's not my husband. And eventually over time, I was a high tech executive, and I'd run down during my 20-minute lunch hour and post on Star Realm social media in like the little coffee shop downstairs, like in downtown Boston. And then eventually we grew the company, and I was able to join part-time and now full-time. And, as many people know, I've been doing this full-time for some time. And Marketing is like, I love doing the marketing stuff. I also do all kinds of other business stuff, but today we're going to focus on marketing. So for everything outside of the board game design and development, I have my hands on, and I also do play testing and stuff like that as well.
Nice.
Well, one of the things that we wanted her to spill, because I told her, I'm like, this is like, you have so many secrets, and I know you can keep a couple to yourself, but I want to know, since we're doing this first guest host thing, I want to know what your favorite, your top 5 to 10 platforms for marketing in the board game world are, and so we can kind of know.
Well, I thought you said 10, so I hope you have a lot of time.
No!
I'm here for it.
No,
I
know this could go on. This is like an entire day.
10, but yeah, I would love to talk about platforms. I think it's a really good question. I think people that are, creating a game and trying to figure out if they want to start a company, what they want to do, the platforms are really, really important. So I'd say by far, my most important marketing platform for White Wizard Games and for our games, and these answers are all specific to the board game industry, is Kickstarter. So Kickstarter is just like a fantastic way to launch a game. We launched our company on Kickstarter with the original Star Realms Kickstarter back in 2013. We would not be where we are today without Kickstarter, and just is like an amazing opportunity to reach a lot of people. You still have to do a lot of pre-marketing before you get to Kickstarter, but the Kickstarter platform itself allows you to reach a lot of people and amplify your message. So, that is by far my most important one. And we also do use Pledge Manager. So I'll mention that. We've used CrowdOx and BackerKit, but they're all very good, from what I've heard from other publishers. And we use the Pledge Managers to help sell add-ons and other products from our portfolio. So once someone has backed, then through the process, we can sell them additional things. So that's also really important for marketing.
And having a back catalog is like the huge part of that. So like Kickstarter, a lot of people think of as the way to get your game made as you're getting into the industry. But really what it becomes is your biggest marketing ally, because it's a way to reach the audience that you're trying to sell to. And so it took a while for me to transition that in my head. It's not just how you get the money to make your game. It is how you access your audience. And I know for our Pledge Manager, like we would make almost 2/3 the amount of our campaign in the Pledge Manager afterwards. And that number goes up astronomically for other people with bigger catalogs.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you build your audience before you get to Kickstarter? You hear a lot of people talking about that. I think for us, like the most important, our most valuable asset is our mailing list. So a lot of people think social media is like the hot, cool thing, and all you have to do is be out there on social media and you'll get your audience. No. If you were to look at the back end of our Kickstarter data, and I guarantee this is the case for like all of the other very large Kickstarters, on day one, a huge percentage of our revenue comes directly from people on our mailing list that open our email and then come. I mean, we've been talking about it for some time. We don't just send an email the day we launch. So there's a whole thing about pre-marketing, and you want people to know about your campaign. You want to communicate with them multiple times before you actually launch, but having an opt-in mailing list from the very beginning. So we started, and this is why like it's important to know about marketing when you first are launching your game. A lot of people don't create a mailing list, and they create it and they don't do anything with it.
They don't do anything with it.
They don't do anything.
They just sit there for 2 years, and then suddenly out of the blue, email people at the tail end.
Right.
Yeah. So having a mailing list, having a proper opt-in. So in Kickstarter, so there's a lot of places where you can get people to join your mailing list. Anywhere where you're asking someone to join your mailing list, you have to have a proper opt-in. It's very, very important. I use the MailChimp platform, because if you use an established platform, they have built-in forms that follow the legal regulations for each of the different regions. There's some pretty strict ones in Europe. It's called GDPR. But if you use MailChimp, by default, it will have the forms in there. It will create the forms that way for you. But within MailChimp, you can grow your mailing list, allow people to, opt in and also opt out, which is really important. Some people don't like your emails and they'll want to opt out, and you legally and just pragmatically, to be a good marketer, want to give people the option to back out, to opt out. Just like you shouldn't be upset personally if someone cancels their pledge on your campaign. don't take it personally if someone unsubscribes to your mailing list. People are really busy. Not everyone likes to read emails, but there are a lot of people.
It's actually a really good way to the people who are going to be less likely to cancel their pledge. Yeah. As you get closer to the Kickstarter, upping the amount of times you communicate, the people who don't back out of the newsletter for it are not going to back out of the Kickstarter because they've already gotten the people who have already gotten the fatigue of getting the updates have already left, and then you won't see that on your Kickstarter as much because the people who want all that information about your game and have gotten hyped about it have already your newsletter already did that for you and weeded out the people who were going to be like, you know what now.
Yeah, I'm over this. You said it too much. Well, then they weren't really your real audience anyway.
And so just to give people just some very high level numbers on this. So if you have a mailing list, a lot of people go to conventions, they gather names, they do play testing at, Unpub or whatever, they gather names and they have a mailing list and they might have, 1,000 people on their mailing list. And that's great. You should only expect 20 to 30% of the people to even open an email that you send.
Right.
And then, another small percentage of those people to actually back your Kickstarter. So you need to keep that in mind. So a lot of people think, oh yeah, I have 1,000 people on my list. That's how I'm going to get my first 500 backers. No, you're not getting 500 backers. So you have to keep that in mind. It doesn't mean they won't buy in the future. It doesn't mean they won't buy later when they see a Facebook ad. Again, with marketing, you want to be touching someone, not literally, but, touching someone multiple times, whether it's through ads, posts in the community, as many places as you can, because a lot of times people have to see things multiple times. I know for myself, I've seen 50 ads before right now, I really want to buy the mirror, which is this workout mirror, because I've seen literally 100 ads for it since Black Friday, because I clicked on it, so now it shows it to me everywhere. Because there's
Peloton
marketing technique of where if you click on something, then you all of a sudden see their ads everywhere. That's a whole other marketing discussion, but where they're retargeting.
And it changes now to how long you're looking at it. They're paying attention to that in the algorithms too. If you sit there and watch half of the whatever video it is, then you're like, oh, now it's going to keep coming up because that got your attention.
If you keep seeing the same ads over and over, it's my fault.
I know. I'll buy it.
Eventually, you might click in, and just so you want to email people at least once a month, I would say. And yes, most people email much more frequently as it gets closer to a campaign, but it really varies depending on your personality. We try not to email people that much, but we have a lot of products and a lot of things happening, so we've been emailing people more frequently. And then also just having a clear call to action. So when you send an email, Marketing 101, you want to make it obvious what you want them to do. And you usually do want them to do something. Maybe you have an awesome playthrough video. You want them to go look at it. Maybe you're sending them a video of, someone live streamed your game. You want them to go take a look at it. It doesn't have to be they're buying something, but you want them to show you they're interested. So it's called a call to action, marketing speak, but have something you want them to do so they can feel I like this game, I'm interested. And it's nice to have a button or graphic for them to click on. They're going to be more likely to click if it's obvious. Historically, if you read any marketing books, they'll tell you just one call to action per email. But my experience with developer marketing and software marketing is that the nerdier the customers, you can have multiple call to actions in an email and multiple pieces of content. Whereas I wouldn't recommend that if it was a consumer product, a regular consumer product.
Right.
And
I even had someone very, very wise tell me very recently that you should always link every single image in your email.
That was
because somebody thinks that, if they see an image, they should be able to click and then learn more about that. So keep that in mind. Link all your
pictures
images.
Linked. Yes. That's
so I have a little checklist when I review emails that people have put together that, yes, every image needs to link to something. Do we have buttons for the call to actions? Is it clear that there's a call to action? Same thing for blog posts with certain things you want to have. So having checklists, it's not a platform, but it's a really good best practice in marketing so that you repetitively can do best practices over and over. Let's see, moving on. And if people have questions, go ahead and ask questions in the chat. I can take
I've definitely got a couple for when we finish up to kind of hit a Q&A at the end for sure.
Okay. So social media, I'm going to mostly talk about Facebook here. So there's a lot of social media platforms. Like I personally really like Twitter. I'm Deb on Twitter. I really like Instagram, and I have multiple Instagram accounts. I have a food one. I now have a dog one. I have, Board Game Wars that's posted here as my personal one. And then of course we have company accounts on all these platforms, but Facebook for board game marketing is by far, in my opinion, like the best platform. So even if you had no presence on Insta or on Twitter, like you could just do Facebook, and I think you could have a very successful, marketing launch, whether you're going to retail or Kickstarter, although I highly recommend going to Kickstarter first. And the way that you do that is twofold. One is community engagement, and this I would start as early as possible, which is both creating groups for your games and participating in other people's groups. So there's like a lot of awesome communities, and you can't just like pop in and start posting, hey, check out my game, it's coming to Kickstarter. You really should.
They make memes about that then.
Yeah, they make memes about it. It's a real problem, but
don't become a meme.
Yeah, the reason why you want to go, and I'll tell you, because it's not even just because you want them to eventually look at your marketing posts and not be mad at you, is because it helps you know your customers. So if you're in these groups, you'll see like, what are people complaining about? What are they liking about? Oh, they don't like that someone did this on a campaign. Like I learn a ton in the board game communities, and I sort of have like a rotating list. So like each day I try to pop into a couple because there's like a lot and I love them all. So I'm trying to like participate and be active and see sort of like what are the fun discussions in each one. I think you should start out, if you're not active in any, in like one or two. But if you get crazy, then you can be active in 5, 6, 7, 8, as many as you're able to. And you might, if you have a team, you might divvy it up and have different people participate in different communities. But that's where you're learning like what's happening. That's where I learn like what industry news is happening and what are people complaining about other campaigns? What's a new innovative thing that someone's doing with their game? So that's super important. And creating your own groups is good because groups work way better than pages on Facebook in terms of your content being bumped up. And then the other part, I said it was twofold, is paid ads. So paid ads on Facebook. So you might not know it if you've never run a Kickstarter campaign, but the bigger campaigns are spending a lot of money behind the scenes on Facebook ads. Like, some people will spend $1,000, but some people are spending tens of thousands of dollars on a campaign to drive pledges. And the reason why they're doing that is because two things. It's easy to target in Facebook. So you can, for example, upload your mailing list and target your customers on Facebook. You can create lookalike audiences against your mailing list. So, okay, well, I'm already able to communicate with my mailing list, but tell me who on Facebook is like my mailing list. And those target audiences, in my experience, can be, really successful in terms of people clicking on your ads. There's a whole science behind, creating ads and measuring your ads. And I'm not
A/B testing and really getting into
get to that here, but like Facebook has a lot of awesome tools. If you don't know what you're doing, you can start out with boosting posts, which is, you'll see on your page like, oh, do you want to spend a little money and boost? And it won't give you a lot of options. But if you actually go into the ad manager, or even the next level up is the business manager on Facebook, then you can dissect by region and by interest. So, you can say, oh, I only want to target the regions where I know I already have customers. That way I know I'll be more effective because people already know my products. Again, they've heard of me. And when I go to fulfill, it's a lot more efficient to ship to, a smaller number of countries. Although I love to sell to anyone, anywhere in the world. But, if I'm paying to...
But your max, we just talked about how shipping is...
There's
a lot of constraints.
Actually, like a huge cost, a huge level of complexity of shipping. So for that reason, I do target specific regions. And for interest, you can say like, oh, I want to target people who, like board games and who like crowdfunding. And then you can get more tighter than that, like who like comics. So we just ran like a comic book inspired game, Kapow, on Kickstarter, or who like horror, or who like Cthulhu if you're doing a Cthulhu game. So
and that was something that we talked about. Facebook is going to give you what they think is the best based on their analytics. And so, but you don't have to listen to it every single time. And specifically for example, last year at Essen, when I had a sale, I wanted people who liked board games in Essen. And they were like, that's too small of a scope. And I was like, nope, that's exactly who I want right now
Right.
for this weekend only. And because I did that, I had so many customers come up with their phone saying, is the sale still on?
So good.
And because I just did a 1 mile radius around Essen, people who like board games, here's my sale. And I targeted just that. And Facebook was like, no, you don't want to do that. I was like, believe me.
We know.
Trust me on this one time, Facebook. This is what I want. And it had impact. And I wasn't getting a lot of people commenting, being like, wish I could be there and get your sale, which meant it was working because it wasn't targeting the people who weren't at Essen and getting FOMO because of it, which was the whole point.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yep, it's true.
So, just so many awesome things. So if you haven't checked out Facebook advertising, like you need to.
Yeah.
I'll put a plug in here that it's an area where even for me, and I run a lot of ads myself, I've outsourced this quite a bit, either to agencies or individual people who run ads. So this is an area where it's really a good idea to bring in someone. It's the one area people ask me, what do I outsource? That's something that I have outsourced, because if someone's running ads daily on a day-to-day basis, they're in sync with like what the latest trends are and what's happening and which ads are working, and because the algorithms do change and things like that. So
true.
Now you had talked a little bit about all these different. I mean, we went through Kickstarter and Pledge Manager and Facebook and some analytics, some ads, some A/B testing. Like, this is good stuff. So, do you have any hidden gems that we don't know about in terms of, I want to know more things?
Yeah, I'd say like a few things. In terms of creating content, so I know like we have several graphic designers on our team, but not everyone has graphic designers on their team. So if you don't have graphic designers, there's tools out there. So Canva is a very popular tool for people who need to create their own graphics, but they don't know how to use the Adobe portfolio or don't have the money, because that software is really expensive. So I recommend Canva. I also have used Fiverr quite a bit just for random things. So I wanted coloring pages, for example, of some of our art, and I wanted it like within a couple of days, and I found someone on Fiverr. And it isn't, trust me, it's not always $5, okay? And generally, if you want someone really good, it's going to be more than $5. So when it says Fiverr, $5, don't trust that. But you can find high quality people that have very specific skills. And we also use Upwork as well. And that's where we actually found one of our full-time graphic designers on Upwork. So if you need someone, part-time to do a specific job that has specific skills, you can post that there. I've also used 99 Designs. So if you're in the early stages and you're looking for a logo, 99 Designs is a site where you can say, I think it's really good for logos, or like a t-shirt design where you want to see a lot of variety. You post it up and you say how much you'll pay, and multiple designers will post, their proposals, and then you choose who you want to go to. So I like that one. Let's see. Oh, I also wanted to mention Keyword Planner. So not a lot of people, if you're not a traditional marketer, know about Google Keyword Planner. So it helps you if you're trying to figure out like what words you should use in your ads and your marketing. If you plug what you think your keywords are into Keyword, Google Planner will tell you how many people are searching for that and other words that people might be searching for. And also, if you plan to do Google ads, it will help you with which Google ads will be less expensive, but the same is going to be true of other ads too. So I think that's definitely one to check out. And
I know that like I do like HubSpot, it like has a bunch of really interesting little like tools where like it's a email subject grader, like basically like is this going to get more opens, or is this, we were laughing last night about emojis, guys, because emojis.
Does it have an emoji checker? Like, do you have enough emojis to reach it?
Yeah, seriously.
Honestly, though, it's such a weird concept, but things like, so knowing what's trending, and this past year it was how many emojis can you fit into one thing? And when I was like at the point where it's like, this looks stupid, I knew that's when I had to post.
Yeah. I mean, I've been using HubSpot for many years, not as a platform. So I have used it as a platform at one company, but as a resource. So they are like the king of content marketing, so they've created so many awesome pieces of content for marketing education. So if you're a marketer and you don't know, like, oh, I need a content plan, what should that look like? Or, oh, how do I decide what blog post to do? They have a generate blog post ideas tool, and like Rachel was saying, an email grader tool. So they have a lot of tools and educational articles, which are really good. I will warn you that they're not specific to the board game industry. Right. And also a lot of their customers are B2B, meaning like it's businesses selling to businesses. So you have to like look and say, okay, is this relevant to my business? And I think that's important, like anything you look at. But we were talking last night about watching YouTube videos, and like I take Udemy classes, I watch YouTube videos, I listen to podcasts, and they're not board game. Many of them are not board game specific, like Gary Vee and Gold Digger, a couple of podcasts I listen to, but these are not board game specific. There are a lot of board game specific ones too.
I was thinking about
and some of those people are in our audience right now, but if you want to learn how to expand your business,
that's right.
Looking outside of our small industry is a very key component.
That's
I agree.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people mentioning in the chat, are you going to become a TikTok star? Like that, like, are you getting into the TikTok advertising?
I actually just created a TikTok account. So follow me. I don't have any content yet. Board Game Wizard. But yes, I have a plan. I haven't executed it yet, but I have a plan of things that we're going to cover. And so we do TikTok in our house, but it's not for the company. So my daughter, who's 17, does some marketing for the company. She does like our Wizard Wednesday on Instagram. She came up with that, where every Wednesday, if you comment on our post, we'll share a post of yours in our story. But she does TikTok for, she just created one for our dogs, and she has one for Salem. It's a TikTok about Salem, Massachusetts, and cool stuff to do in Salem, Massachusetts. That's
nice.
I think sweet in Salem. And she has a personal one, which I'm not allowed to watch, but she likes to get on my phone, on my account, so she can like her videos. So, it bumps it up, but she doesn't.
I'm going to be honest. I'm terrified of starting a TikTok account because I'm afraid I'm going to get a phone call from one of my nieces and nephews and I'll pick it up and it'll just be stop.
Yes, my kids do that.
I'm not sure. I see a lot. So the thing is, like, the board game content I see isn't like the other TikTok content I see. So I'm kind of like, what do I do here? Because a lot of the board game content is like, look at my favorite 2-player games. And they're just like dancing and like showing games. And then like, the regular TikTok content's usually just like each video is different and like unique. And like, it doesn't look like a marketing video. Like you might happen to be playing a game in it, but so I need to figure out the right strategy. So I'm going to be trying a lot of different things, but
that's what we do. I mean, if I were to just make my marketing strategy after watching my daughter's TikTok, I just stare at the camera and go,
but
like, that's just what I do all day.
Like TikTok's really different than any of the platforms. So, and I used to do Musical.ly like before it was TikTok. So it's really different. So like normally we would do White Wizard Games, but in this case, I'm going to do Board Game Wizard to be more of like a personal one. But if other people want to do stuff at the company, they can, but it's not going to be like White Wizard. We did create a White Wizard Games, and I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like very corporate-y. And I think in TikTok, having it be more of a personal account is better. So, we'll see how it goes. I'm fascinated by it, and I see the huge number of views that videos get, which are would be pretty easy to produce. Sort of like live streaming, I think the level of quality for TikTok videos is the level that people expect is much lower. That's why I like live streaming. That's why I think I could like TikTok. Like when you're live streaming, everything isn't expected to be perfect, and glitches happen. But when you're doing a produced video, professionally produced playthrough that you're going to post up, it has to be perfect and very polished. So I think the same TikTok, you can just do it on the fly, and like, hey, if no one likes it, then you just delete it, and you
right. Plus you can leave, like McKenna had like 75 of them in her drafts folder. I was like, are you going to do anything with these? But one of the other things that somebody mentioned, Sarah Shaw does a bunch of stuff in there. Actually, the one that I saw go viral was Sugar High Score. She does gaming cakes. I think she's in Seattle, and she went viral on one of hers, and now she's got hundreds of thousands of views that a lot of them are board game themed. And so it was really cool to watch her benefit from that
But the challenge
platform.
is, how are you translating it, making sure that your marketing translates that into
Yeah, I'm not convinced that it
into
translates into
dollars.
sales.
Views of 12-year-olds finding your stuff funny does not always translate into marketing for actual purchases. So what are you promoting? What are you trying to drive them to? Now, Sarah Shaw, I think, is a very different aspect, because her whole thing is explaining a board game in under a minute. And that to me was phenomenal, because she is a go-to for me now for every game that I'm putting out, because when somebody needs a quick synopsis of what my game is, she's got it down. And that's great. And it's on TikTok, so it's on TikTok, but it could be on any platform, and I'd be happy about it.
And I would people sharing their TikToks on other platforms too. And like,
Right.
if you do that style, then it's useful anywhere. Whereas if you're doing like a really wacky dance, like while you're making weird faces, maybe you don't want to post it on Facebook.
Right. Well, and the other thing is that I don't
want to post it anywhere personally, but
don't do it. What I would say is, I think that there is a different type of marketing with that then. Like, yes, Sarah Shaw's talking about your game and you might get a sale out of that, but Sugar High Score is developing awareness about the board game industry. Like it's an industry brand awareness versus a, individual company brand awareness.
True. But then is she driving people to go look at board game publishers, or are people just, again, going to Target and seeing what they see, which is great for people who are in Target. And that was mass market, and that was 2 weeks ago.
Okay. All right. So we got so much good stuff. I think that we should probably go to questions for a bit, unless you have anything dying to come out still, Debbie. Do you anything? Mm-hmm. We good? Okay. I have been making notes because I'm getting better at remembering how to go back now. So at 9:43, Mr. Michael. 9:43, Michael. Okay. MailChimp no longer works with Wix. Interesting. Good to know. Integrations are important, so pay attention to your own providers. And then Matt. Okay, this was an interesting one for me. So Matt wants to know if you think mailing lists work for industry adjacent businesses like service providers, like he's a graphic designer. You've got marketing consultants and things like that. Also, I mean, this makes me think of James is hanging out with us this morning. It makes me think of Sandra, because when I joined her mailing list, she's a blogger and not in the industry. So their version of trying to get people, giving them some sort of value for us giving them our email address and therefore our attention, is a lead magnet of some sort. So like some sort of free downloadable or a template that is going to help me. So like if you're gonna want me to sign up for your graphic design mailing list, I want some sort of a one page on like things that you need to have in every ad, or some graphic design 101 that I wouldn't necessarily be privy to because it's not my area.
Well, I don't know. So that's very deep dive. I was thinking more along the lines of what newsletters are coming at you, and I'm not talking about flyers from Williams Sonoma, which I love. I'm talking about actual other entrepreneurs. Okay. And for me, I do a lot of so the comic book industry. I've done artists I've worked with, and just in general, it's one of my favorite smaller business genres. And so I do get the newsletters from other comic book creators. And it's interesting because, knowing your audience, knowing who you're talking to, it's a little bit different of what we do, and tends to be a little less polished than the board game industry, which is funny to me because comic books are still a small entertainment niche industry, but it's a bigger money maker in general than the board game industry. If you think about it business wise, it's a bigger business model. And most of the people I get from are less polished than board game ones, which I find fascinating. For example, Deb, what do you think?
I mean, I think that the board game industry has, I would say since I got into it, it wasn't very polished when I first joined the board game industry. And in the last, 4 or 5 years, it's become amazingly polished. So even like when we do our Kickstarter videos, like we used to it was always Rob talking, and it was pretty, I don't want to say unprofessional, but like just we would plan what we were going to say, but it was a pretty simple video. And now we feel like we have to do fancy videos because everyone's doing fancy videos. So we need to have an animation at the beginning. We need to do certain things. So I think that it's really evolved and become more advanced in the board game industry over time. I'm surprised to hear that about the comic industry. So I can't really comment on that industry, but I think that like, and there's been, I'm not going to pick on anyone, but there's definitely been a few people in the industry that like have really gone above and beyond and like taken marketing to the next level. And then everyone has to compete with that. So
it's true.
I don't know at all who you're talking about.
Well, okay. So also one of the things that I saw was from James, and I wanted to challenge him.
Okay, I just got to say that, James.
What?
James Hudson is one of the people that I think really took marketing to another level.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's the James you were talking about, but
yes, it is. Okay, so here, but I want to challenge him a little bit. Like, so it says your best marketing tool is to make games that people can't ignore. I agree.
He
Make
did
some
later
dang
say
good
that
games.
it was a self-reflection on some of the games that he thought he could do better at. So there was a little bit of tongue in cheek here, but to address this comment in itself, please go ahead.
For sure. Like, you could make the best game in the world, but if nobody knows about it, nobody's going to play it. So like, yes, you don't want to make you want to make amazing games, and you do make amazing games. I mean, talking to James, but
it's fantastic.
I mean, and the production, like he worked really, really hard on all that stuff. So it's really cool to have his perspective, but definitely you have to talk your face off. And he's been doing that for years and years and years with Board Game Spotlight and with creating a presence. Like he was way back when like Jamie Stegmaier was building his community with that he worked really hard at and then wrote a book about. Like,
but
it's
to
way
that
back.
end, once you've built up an audience and have, followers and people then it is easier to focus more. You have an engine going already.
Yes.
You have people who are talking about your games, and you have to make sure that then you're focusing on making sure that your next game is still a game that people want to talk about. I get that. Starting in on the beginning levels or you have the marketing piece of it. If you're going with different types of games, if you're introducing a new genre to your particular publishing line, that's still
rebranding, doing all sorts of strange things. Yep. Yes, I know.
You can't just rely on people, especially in the last 10 years, the cult of the new having become a much more predominant thing. You can't rely on people saying, well, Alan Moon, who's Ticket to Ride has been a huge influence in the industry over many years, and still is somebody now on Kickstarter, the Aftershock Kickstarter, which again, Aftershock is a great game, but they were relying very heavily on just the fact that people just name and didn't do as much build up marketing wise beforehand on Kickstarter. And since Kickstarter people didn't know retail games as well and weren't as savvy, there was a disconnect.
Right.
Not to specifically call it, because I loved everybody involved, and it made my heart hurt. But that was something where very specifically they were just relying on name recognition and already previous fans. And people on Kickstarter don't necessarily always have been fans of games in just retail. So you have to also you can't just rely on that. You still have to do the marketing and do the legwork.
And in the last 5 years, maybe 10, I don't know. But like board games have changed from, an activity to almost a collector's item. Like people, show off their collections and things like that. And not everybody plays them multiple times. I mean, it's a different type of thing in the hobby market specifically.
Right.
Anything else?
I think We've been at this for a while. Maybe.
I just wanted to answer the question about the person who wanted to know if mailing lists were valuable if you're a service provider. So
yes,
if you're a service provider, in my opinion, it really depends on your business model. So if you're saying, and how many people you have as a company, if you're a one-man show and you're like, I'm trying to get these 3 publishers or 3 top publishers as my client, then I would say mailing list is not that important to you. What's important to you is figuring out what those publishers want, making connections with those publishers, and doing one-on-one communications with people at those publishers and working to meet more people at those publishers. So you do much more of a targeted one-on-one email. But if you're trying to grow a studio of consultants where, you're going to do like a marketing agency, then you would want to do a mailing list because you're planning to hire a lot of people and you'll have a lot more clients. You kind of want to hit up everyone, then a mailing list would be good. And I've seen really great mailing lists. If you need ideas, you can really good newsletters from service providers. So if you need ideas, you can message me and I'll give you some ideas. I really like GPI's newsletter. They're a printer manufacturer, and I really like their newsletter. They send out a lot of like industry specific stuff, whether it's like the VAT changing or things like that. So they send out topical
raw materials. Raw materials was this week.
Yes, they send topical information. I really like that. I think they do a nice job, and I've written back to them to let them know, because I don't see a lot of newsletters that I'm like, wow, these people really put a lot of thought into like curating information that I would be interested in, not just telling me about what they want to do. I get a lot of messages from printers like, hey, I saw you have a new Kickstarter. Do you want me to make your game?
Right. But they actually put out a newsletter with
they're
content.
Communicating with me and giving me stuff I need, whether or not I'm working with them. So,
right. So, at kind of to wrap it up, like some top tips that we were wanting to drive home, I would say that my top tip is asking your peers to see what's being done, like what is going on in our specific industry, and like what you had mentioned about GPI. I definitely am going to go, subscribe to their newsletter. I want to know more about what's going on that is pertinent to me. And then Julie play right off of it.
Right, correct. Because when you're starting, yes, asking your peers is a good place to start. Once you're comfortable with that, my advice is get out of the industry bubble, because you don't want to be doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, and getting out influences in other industries and seeing what they're doing is going to help you learn new tricks, new tips, new platforms, and also reach out to new potential gamers that may not know that they want to love your game forever and ever and ever yet.
Right. And Debbie, the epic pragmatist.
I wasn't sure what mine is. What is it? Oh, yeah. We were talking last night about like, spending money and having budget. And, I've been like, shoestring of, do we go out this week or spend money to do marketing kind of thing. I've been there when you have no money and you're literally like, using your credit card if you want to do marketing. So if you can spend your money where you can see the return. So that's why I personally like Facebook ads. We don't actually we historically haven't done a lot of paid marketing, but Facebook ads I can measure and see the money come back. But when you have more budget, so for example, if you do like print ads in a distributor publication, like it's really hard to measure how effective that is. But when you have more budget, then you can do those kind of things, because you're like, oh yeah, I want to build awareness, whether or not it drives direct sales. But when you're limited on money, just try to figure out, talk to other people, find out what works and learn from them, so you're not wasting your money.
That's right. So let's go ahead and back out to here and change you around. I know, move you around. I know everybody wants to be done.
You like the Brady Bunch?
Yes. Yeah. We're back into Zoom level. Okay. And let's see. We haven't talked about what's going on with us for a while. So I'm going to apologize, because this little overlay is going to cover Debbie like completely, but it's almost ironic, because what I have been up to, I have been playing Star Realms Digital like, stupid amounts of time. Like that is what I have been doing constantly. And I'm like, last night I played 3 games before bed with James. He's probably hanging out in here. And I'm trying to learn more about the product line, since I just started with White Wizard, and I am having a blast. Like, it's real fun. And I just wanted to say, because I was like, what am I doing this week? Well, I'm I'm playing on my phone, guys. That's what I'm doing. And I wanted to, I actually texted Julie and I said, hey, do you want to play? And she's like, if I put games on my phone, I would never get anything done.
Ever.
And so
she's been
therefore,
asking me, she's like, play Star Realms. I'm like, I can't.
I have a hard boundary, self-care. But I have my little tag
now, if you
on
come
there.
over to my house, I'll play it with you in person.
Well,
we can't do that right now. I'm sorry.
So Rachael WWG is my little gamer tag. So if you want to send me a challenge, I will whoop up on you. So all right. Julie.
Yep.
Julie. Again, we're not used to having this third person. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
this is hilarious. So Barbarian Battlegrounds still on Pledge Manager. Pledge Manager is open, and we just got back. So we're in the process of, the back and forth of making sure all our specs are correct for our game. Our plastics and the pins have been picked out, but
I can't leave her like
they
that long.
are working with Longpack, and it's our first time working with Longpack. So that is a growing process of learning what their the die lines and everything are slightly different than what we've done for other things. So we're going a little bit back and forth and adjusting some stuff before we finish. And that's, always a fun time.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. So the Pledge Manager is still open. That's what's going on with me.
And since Debbie is guest hosting with us, I wanted to know what was going on with her. So Debbie, what's up with you?
Well, we didn't think 7 kids and 1 dog were enough. So we went on a long drive last weekend and we picked up this cutest little puppy. His name's Teddy. He's on Instagram. Teddy and Rogue are on Instagram.
Oh my God. It's like a stuffed animal.
It is.
Too, so but I don't know if anything's been posted on TikTok yet. But yeah, so it's been so awesome. Like having all the kids at home. First, we got one puppy, a few months, maybe 5 or 6 months ago, a Pomsky, and this a Pomsky too. This one's more Pomeranian than Husky. But it's been so awesome because normally all the kids are in their room with the door shut. But like now with the puppy, they're all like, oh, and they're coming around and playing with the puppy and stuff. So yeah, it's been so cute.
Yeah, and Wizard Weekly is something that you do every Tuesday.
Yes, every Tuesday we live stream Wizard Weekly, and we give updates. Like, right now we're working on new Hero Realms sets. I saw someone in the chat was a Hero Realms fan. We're working on new character packs for Hero Realms and a new base game for Hero Realms. I've been playtesting Sorcerer Endbringer. So those are the kind of things we talk about. We give updates and we take any questions that people have about anything, even if they're asking us like what games we play that aren't our games, and you can ask.
And I have to watch it because then they tell all of the fun stuff that's coming, and it's so many soft announcements in there. Like if you want to know what is going on, it's awesome.
Some insider information. That's fantastic.
Rob tends to answer any questions, so whether or not we've like agreed that we're
You're like
market it, he's like, oh.
Nice. Oh, and our shout out this week as a nod to marketing in general, the master of marketing himself would be Stephen Bonacore. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about Stephen when I first joined the industry. They were like, oh, there's this guy who like runs his entire company like by himself. And like, I was like, really? I got to meet this guy. Because we were kind of like, of just a handful of people. And when I met him, he's just so incredible and so welcoming and always sharing, his information with everyone. He's on the Dice Tower Network, on Board Game Insider, and now the Podfather of Gaming, which I love that name. And he also has been hosting one thing that I thought was really cool, online virtual happy hours where people just like get together and chat. And it's like twice a week, I think right now. I think I put the details.
Thursdays and Sundays. Yeah.
Thursdays and Sundays. And I've gone to quite a few of those, and it's just so nice. I mean, he's just an all around awesome guy and just
and very good at sharing how to promote yourself.
Oh yeah. Promoter.
He is so good with that, and he's been really he's real special to me too. So I was wanting to make sure that you all know. I mean, we knew this was going to be a long one because this was too good of content to shorten. So hopefully if anybody had like a pressing meeting that they had to run off to, they can watch the rest of this later. But next week we're going to chill out a little bit and enjoy talking about getting ready for the holidays. I mean,
while still running a business.
While still running a business. So how do you make sure you have presents under your tree because you actually had time to wrap them, and presents flying out of your own web store and such. So
yeah. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, everyone. This awesome session was sponsored this week also by Arcane Wonders, and we love them almost as much as we love you.
And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest. And all the links are in the description box below.
Enjoy your Friday, everyone, and the rest of your weekend. And remember, next week, you're invited.